Dave finally talks about Captain America the Winter Soldier! I'll keep this one short. It's a Marvel movie. If you haven't seen it by now, you're not going to. The first Captain America was my favorite Marvel Phase 1 movie, so I was cautiously excited about this. Cautiously because a lot of my enjoyment from the first one came from the period piece World War II propaganda filmness of it all, and I wasn't quite sure if I would enjoy this one as much without that element, but to my delight, I had a blast. Apparently, non-period piece, modern-day films with echoes of 70s conspiracy thrillers can be just as much fun. It was a fun comic book action movie that managed to address real-world fears and concerns without losing sight of being a fun comic book action movie. It managed to give an ensemble full of talented people a lot of things to do that mattered to the story without losing sight of the fact that it's Steve's story, and that we need to focus on the struggle between his idealism and the cold, harsh realities of the world he woke up in. It managed to get Robin Sparkles, Abed, and one of the guys from Derek Comedy who's not Donald Glover into the same movie as screen legend Robert Redford. That made me smile. Of course, Robert Redford is no stranger to conspiracy flicks like this. The first movie, being an origin story, was more of a standalone movie, aside from the ending, whereas this movie, it wraps up its own story and, it has a satisfying conclusion and everything, but it's more of an entry in the larger series that is the MCU. A lot of what happens in this movie is significant within this movie, but it's even more significant because we know that it's going to affect later movies, which is probably why they went with television directors for this one. Now, the Russo brothers have directed some of the funniest episodes of television in the history of the medium, so it's safe to say that they know how to bring a sense of fun to a story while still respecting its place in the larger arc that's out of their control. A lot has been talked about lately about how the director's not an auteur on a Marvel movie, Marvel is the auteur on a Marvel movie, and you might get a Joss Whedon or a Shane Black who can bring their own voice to a project and bring you a Marvel movie that no other director would bring you, but it still can't contradict Marvel's larger vision for the arc of the series. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I enjoy this telling a long-form story over the course of several movies, like a modern-day equivalent to the serials of old, as long as each individual movie still has a complete and satisfying story of its own, and they're not just commercials for the next movie. I don't mind them having commercials for the next movie in them, but they can't just be a commercial for the next movie. I haven't seen Amazing Spider-Man 2 yet, but people are telling me it was like that. But that's just what I've heard secondhand. Step away from the comment box, ASM lovers. You don't need to defend it to me. Now, for me, Winter Soldier did work in that regard. It made me excited to see the next movies and made me really want to see what's coming next in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it still left me satisfied with the viewing experience on its own. All that to say, I get why a visionary perfectionist director like Edgar Wright wasn't the best fit for this series that's dictated by someone else, but I'm really sad we're not going to get to see his Marvel movie. Although I generally like Peyton Reed, so I'm sure Ant-Man will still be fun, but what could have been? Maybe not what should have been, but what could have been. Anyway, one last spoilery thing, so turn it off now if you don't want spoilers. I saw Winter Soldier the Tuesday right after it had come out, and in that short time, I already found myself exposed to countless of those memes you people of the internet made of people whispering Hail Hydra to each other, so I knew that something was coming in the movie with someone whispering Hail Hydra, but then I watched the movie. You really bury the lead that the person who whispers Hail Hydra is Gary Shandling. Come on, meme makers, I'm sure at least one screen cap exists of Larry Sanders leaning in to whisper to Hank Kingsley that you could have used. I'm not mad, internet, I'm just disappointed in your wasted potential.